question. So who's on first?
I'll try not to run on.
Mal Carmen is on first.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, very well, thank you.
What was it that attracted you to this kind of role?
You know, when I read the script, I loved the story, and it seemed different than anything I'd read before. But when I met with Denis, he has such a special quality to him and such an emotional intelligence, and he really wanted to make it feel like a very intimate story, even though we're dealing with elements in this sort of sci-fi realm and sci-fi universe, and that seemed really unique to me. And he would always say, and often say, you know, this is a mother's story. At the end of the day, we can get caught up in all of these other elements, but at the end of the day, this is the story of a mother. You know, what's interesting is when we made the film, it wasn't even as relevant as I feel it is today. You know, we weren't in the midst of our current election cycle. I mean, kind of, but not where it's at today. So I do think it's become even more relevant, sort of this idea of communication and understanding and misinterpretation. And so, yeah, I do think that it does say something about you know, how we need to proceed forward as the human race, you know. You know, my first experience with science fiction was E.T., and I think I've always hung on to that. I know it's not as sophisticated, but there's such it's such an intimate, such a human story about relationships. But there's been so many along the way. I loved Abyss, I love Contact, I love Close Encounters, and all of these that sort of deal with relationships inside of the science fiction universe. There's a moment where Louise says it's the moments in between, that thing in the film, and there's probably a time in every day where I think about that sentence, where it's a moment in between a moment. You know, the big moments are all the things that we celebrate, you know, but it really is those little moments. You know, sounding out a word with my daughter last night, you know, before I had to go do something, like reading a story with her and, you know, helping her learn how to read. Like, that's an amazing moment. So that's something I've taken with me. Yeah.
How's the Janis Joplin project going?
How is that going? That seems to be one of those projects. Here's what I would say about the Janis project. It's sort of like, when Janis wants that to happen, it will happen. So I think she's still a powerful force somewhere. Yeah.
Well, she's in tears.
Yeah. Well, her spirit lives on.
Yes.
What do you hope people take away from the film?
I mean, I hope people. It's less about sort of what they take away and more what they come into it with. I hope they come into the film open, because I think what each person takes away is different. My niece and nephew didn't necessarily kind of respond as much to the emotional side of it. They liked it, but they really loved the scientific element of it and the idea of communicating through mathematics and nonlinear time. They really loved that, and they're like I said, like 11 and 16, and then so I really hope that everybody sort of finds the thing in the film that speaks to them. Yeah.
One of the things that's so wonderful about your performances is you have a way of reacting to people you're acting with that seems so real and so present. How do you do that when you're acting with something you have to imagine?
You know, I think that's as an actor, I think that's kind of our job, is to create something that isn't there, whether it's a relationship. It's definitely aided when you have like an actor like Jeremy or Forrest, you know, to get to act with. It's definitely aided, but at the same time, you know, you have those wonderful actors next to you doing it with you, so you don't feel quite as vulnerable. But also Denis, again, the people that you're working with become your scene partner in a way, and the way that the director talks you through it. And I think it's important to feel an emotional connection with your character and with the moment. You know, you just have to be involved in the moment, and the reactions, I believe, come from each moment if you can be present.
One last
We love the director, Denis, and you do a great impression of him. So what would he say if he were here?
He would be like, I deeply love that you all have come to the film. I used to do it for him. He's like, I love that you're all here, and I hope that you really love the film. I just wish he were here, because he does it better. He does him better. He does him better than I do him. Weird, but he's a wonderful director. Really wonderful to work with. Yeah.